Hello, all my fellow light makers. Thank you for joining the Lighten Up Project yet again. It is I, Malcolm Grissom, the stand-up CEO and founder of the World Laughter Organization. And today, I am so happy about this conversation that we are about. You should be jazzed. We're about to throw down. It is gonna be so wild time. This is gonna be a great conversation. Today on the Lighten Up Project, we are going to be talking all about change and why the hardest part of transformation usually isn't the strategy, it's the people. So my guest today, Dr. Diane Dye, she's been here before. She is the founder of the People Risk Consulting. She's also the author of Creating Critical Opportunity. She works with CEOs to uncover the hidden people risks that quietly stall the progress and turn them into breakthroughs, which is what we all need, right? Right? Yeah, right. I do. I know. I do. Right. Diane has a doctorate in organizational change and leadership, and she has a background in communication. She blends research-backed frameworks into pop culture storytelling to make complex challenges that actually make sense. Today, we're going to be diving into the power of listening, super important, the reality of change management, and why leaders who truly hear people lead transformation that actually sticks. So if you've ever rolled out a change and thought, why isn't this working? This episode is for you. So let's lighten up, let's listen in, and let's welcome Dr. Diane Dye.
Hey, Malcolm. It's so good to be here.
Yes, so good to have you here. So would you join me in 20 seconds of spontaneous laughter?
Oh, yes. I'd love to.
All right. Okay. 1, 2, 3, laugh.
I don't know those 20 seconds, but I just feel good.
Yeah, it goes on and on. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. 20 seconds goes into 30 seconds and gosh. So Diane, what is your relationship with laughter?
Well, I think, Malcolm, you have to laugh sometimes or you'll cry. And I think that life throws us many curveballs. Business throws us many curveballs. And when you have the ability to first, understand that everyone's fallible, no one's perfect, and that sometimes you can laugh at the foibles of life, then you can look at the foibles and go, okay, what did I learn from that? And if I learned from that, how can I use that to make things better next time? So it just brings levity to sometimes some tough situations.
You mentioned something really good there that I'm just reminded real quick. I'm reminded of a story that, the first lesson I learned in improv, taking improv classes, and that is mistakes are gifts. And that they're wonderful opportunities for one to laugh, like you said, laugh at the foibles of life, and then they're great things to accept, look at, and build upon. And that's the first lesson I learned in improv, and that has stuck with me my entire life.
Most certainly, you have to be able to kind of notice that when mistakes happen, it's not the end of the scene. It's not the end of what you're doing. In fact, in many parts, it's the beginning of what happens. It's the plot twist. It's where the things get really interesting in a show. I remember I was in a show one time. I was in the female version of The Odd Couple. And it was an opening scene, and we're sitting at a card table, and we're playing Trivial Pursuit. And one of the actresses, and I don't know which one, but she forgot her line, which resulted in somebody else forgetting their line and somebody else forgetting their line. And there was this cascade of just chaos. And suddenly I'm just like, well, I'm just going to play the game. And I picked up the card, and I actually read straight off the Trivial Pursuit card what the question was, until somebody could find their place in it. And I think that ability to say, okay, this didn't go according to plan, so I'm going to look at what the nearest anchor is and go from there. I think it provides a sense of continuity that some people need. And I've been in business meetings like this where, oh my goodness, we're appearing like a team of chickens with their heads cut off, just flopping around. And then I'll say this stabilizing line, and suddenly the team will be like, oh yeah. And then they'll fall in line with whatever topic I've proposed. And it's that's needed when things go awry. It's that courage to be the point of consistency. And sometimes that's laughter. Sometimes that's just going, okay, so what? Now what? We're learning from this. Let's move on.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Now I love the fact that I was on your podcast at one point, and we were talking about listening and the importance of listening in the corporate world. Mm-hmm. And let me back up. I mean, again, we're just going back to my forte, which is, improv. And listening, improv is all about listening. And as you pointed out just now, listening is a great skill to have in business, period. Mm-hmm. So when you think of leadership, where does listening rank? I mean, it's good to have, but where on the scale does it rank? Is it just good to have in the middle? Is it a must?
It's an absolute must. Absolutely. It's an absolute must. As a leader, your job is to listen, then lead, not lead, then listen. So you need to understand the context in which you are operating within. So that means listening to your customers and what they need. What do they love? What do they not love so much? What's the customer view? Anytime you're making a change that's going to impact the customer, you need to tune into the customer line on that overall impact. You need to listen to your employees. Your employees are your front line. They know what's happening in the day-to-day in the organization. You need to listen to your fellow executives. You need to listen to the market and those who aren't your customers, but maybe there's a market need that you can capitalize on, that you can innovate from. Listening is incredibly important. Some of the leaders that I've seen kind of bite it the hardest is those that come in and it's, I have a way, this is the way, and they don't care what anyone else has to say. And ultimately, those directions, they hit the skids because they don't have buy-in from their team. They have a lot of resistance that comes up. Maybe they're pointing things in the wrong direction. They're pointing things based on their own masks, their own biases and beliefs that, something is true, but maybe it's not true. So when you have a leader who comes in and they just seek to understand, they start asking the right questions, they start opening their ears and just listening to what's going on. That data collection is so incredibly important. And unfortunately, many leaders, especially who are new to companies, they enter an environment where it's not safe to share this data. So they come in kind of half blind in those circumstances. That means that their job one is actually forming psychological safety, or the ability to feel safe messing up, feel safe taking risks. All of that has to be built first before listening. Otherwise, people are just going to parrot out what they think the executive wants to hear. And that too is a dangerous situation. So up there with listening, I would pair the culture of psychological safety so that what's being said is actually the objective truth of the organization.
Okay. Well, listening, so in leadership skills or leader skills, I'm in schools, leadership schools, or organizations like Toastmasters International, for instance, places that actually teach leadership, they do often say listening is part of leadership. Some people say, it's essential, like you. Some people don't. They downplay it. But most leaders, dare I say all leaders, know that listening is a skill of leadership, skill, wherever it falls on that scale for them. Now, why do you think listening is overlooked so much?
I think listening is overlooked so much because the individuals who overlook it are not willing to unlearn what they think they know. And what I mean by that is they are less open to being proven that their past experience or their thoughts or their beliefs aren't exactly correct. When you listen, you open yourself up to a little bit of personal vulnerability, because you have to be emotionally mature enough to not only listen, but truly hear the pattern, to hear the theme, to hear what people truly are saying. What you focus on increases. And there is a thing that is called selection bias, where you select who you're going to talk to or who you're going to listen to in order to confirm what your belief is. And that selection bias results in confirmation bias. It's like playing I Spy with my little eye. I want to see red. I'm going to look around and I'm going to see a red rose, and I'm going to see a red book cover and a red shirt that you wear. I'm going to see all of the red because that's what I want to see. So people who devalue listening overvalue their position versus what may actually serve the end goal that is going to move the organization forward. And it's a tough thing, Malcolm, to realize and identify with, oof, that's been me. because no one wants to identify with that. No one wants to say that I got swept away in my own innovation and my own idea, and I didn't talk to anybody. So I built this whole system and I built this whole thing, and then I unveiled it to the world and there were crickets. Well, the reason why there were crickets and you heard nothing once you unveiled your sweet baby to the world is because you talked to absolutely nobody while you were building your sweet baby. And that's why it didn't come with a pre-installed market. It came in really with a presupposed market that may not exist. So that's a hard pill to swallow, Malcolm. I mean, that's a pill I've had to swallow. Because when you love something so incredibly much, especially when you're a founder, right? You're like, oh, I got to keep this close. No one needs to know about this until it's built. If someone's going to steal my idea, whatever, comes across in those thought sets. But it couldn't be further from the truth. There are so many ideas, but the number of people who are actually willing to execute is actually very small. So if you do not talk to people before you release your product, if you do not do that market research, if you do not ask questions, listen, be willing to unlearn what you think you know, that could cost you so much more. It's why my Braver Innovation Framework starts with the letter B, which is bias and belief, recognition, and remediation. What do you believe? What do you believe strongly? Are you willing to challenge that? And if you are, you're ready to listen. But if you're not, you're going to look for every reason why you are right. You are going to find evidence that you are right. Fear. You are going to install that fear because you are afraid no one's going to accept your new process, your new policy, your new product, the direction you're taking the company, what have you. But when you have that courage to say, okay, this is what I think I know. And maybe this is true because, and you can list it out. And maybe this is not true because, and then you challenge those things. And then from them, maybe it's not true. Is it possible that, and you list that out, you can come up with the questions to ask that directly challenge those beliefs and biases. And maybe you're right. Maybe you are right. Maybe you are spot on. And this is absolutely the direction to go. Or maybe quite possibly something better could come of it. But rather it being a very costly, I've spent millions on this idea kind of mistake. It's a learning. It's something that you've headed off at the past. And when you're willing to unlearn what you think you know, your research is guided in a way that actually iterates. It actually reveals something that you may have never thought of before. And that's actually kind of magical.
So to sum up what I think I'm hearing, and please tell me if I'm correct or not. So to sum up what I think I'm hearing, you're saying that leadership is really about asking the right questions to people, to the market, to the people that you're serving. Mm-hmm. They're all customers. And in my book, I mean, from the standpoint of customer service, everyone's a customer. Your employee, your colleagues, your boss, everyone, the actual clients that you serve, they're all customers. But anyway, so leadership is about asking the right questions, listening. Mm-hmm. So you're saying that it's essential to listen to the answer, mm-hmm. and then maybe even question if we've heard the answer correctly, and where the answers would lead. Mm-hmm. So it's all about questioning and listening.
Yeah. And listening for not for what you want to hear, but for what comes up most often, the theme. And from that theme, you will begin to hear a very clear signal. And there's a difference between signal and noise. Signal is, this is where we're going to go because that is what's going to be the best path forward. Noise is, here's everything that everybody else says that we should do. And you might talk to 50 people, and 25 of those people are telling you the exact same thing. And 25 of those people are giving you different variations of noise. And you have to tune in to that signal, that repeating theme, and going, oh, okay, there's something here. There's something here that we can move forward on. And we don't want to get distracted by the shiny things that other people might be saying, even though, one of the things that person said was my idea. Well, that was just one out of 50. But that we can get so distracted by noise, by the things that do not move the needle, that we can take our businesses down a path of a very rocky road. And it doesn't have to be so rocky if we ride the signal versus getting distracted by the noise.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, what if let's go with the leader standpoint from leader's point of view first. So what if the leader recognizes that, I've been following the noise, I've made a lot of mistakes here, then how do you suggest that leader make a turn?
Mm-hmm. Well, I like to say I use pop culture to provide references for this all of the time. And there's an older movie example and a newer movie example of this. The older movie example is The Matrix. The newer movie example is Project Hail Mary. So in The Matrix, Neo is going down a path where he's basically dead to the world. He is not awake. He is going through the day-to-day, going through the blah, whatever. And he has to have the courage to take that red pill from Morpheus to wake up and actually tap into what is reality. He didn't believe himself. He had to pull something from outside to do that. In Project Hail Mary, we have a science teacher who says he's a great science teacher and his kids love him and he loves teaching science. But he's also a world-class researcher who gets pulled into saving the world. And I won't do a spoiler alert on this, but ultimately, he has to be told in a very serious way that, no, really, you are the only one who can do this. And it doesn't matter what you have to say. You're being dragged kicking and screaming into your own bravery. In both cases, our heroes had to take some action that moved them forward into this new state of consciousness, this new state of being. And that's the way it is sometimes with waking up to new information, is you kind of have to take the red pill a little bit. You have to be, basically forcibly knocked out and wake up in space. And there is nothing quite like that than being a founder who has taken a company down a rough road, and then realized, wow, I made a mistake. And I did this. I absolutely did this. I had my baby. I had all of these things. I had all these plans. And then I realized that I hadn't asked a single person what they thought about these cohorts, what they thought about these plans, what they thought about these grand designs that I had, that I mapped financial models for and did everything. Why? Because I was afraid. I was afraid to ask. I was afraid to take that red pill and wake up. I was afraid. So I had to basically, like Project Hail Mary, I had to wake up in space and go, whoa, all right, it's go time. Because if I don't do this, my business as I know it is done. And when I did that, I was able to see the gift in the detour, going, wow, I'm so far off what I wanted to do. But as a leader, you're going to hit these points at various points in your business development. You're going to hit it when you're first starting and you're just full of vim and vigor and vitality about what you have to offer the world. You're going to hit it at year 5 when it's the make or break moment for most startups. That's why businesses are more likely to get funded after year 5, because they've hit that point of where most businesses fail. And I hit it at year 10. And at year 10, I realized, wow, I have been doing all of this grinding. And what I really want to do, what brings me joy, what makes me laugh to bring it full circle, is to just show up and teach. I want to show up and teach. I want to be supported to show up and teach. And I want to show up and teach. And when I saw that, I thought, wow, well, why don't I just start teaching and see what the students have to say? Why don't I just take all the weight off of this and just start showing up? Right? And so, listeners, there's probably something in your heart where you're like, I don't know, should I release it? Should I do it? Should I do this different thing? You start collecting information the moment you let it be known. The moment I started talking to people at South by Southwest about the Braver Innovation Framework, they were like, oh my gosh, that makes total sense. I can see how this can mess things up right at the very beginning and how this can then really help my company. And I said, well, how could I best explain this? And what situations are you going through? And I began having those discussions, and those discussions are what gave me my curriculum. I just started showing up and having the conversations. And sometimes it's exactly that. You just have to be brave enough to start having the conversations and then let the path reveal itself.
So let's pivot now. Let's pivot back. You were talking a little bit about psychological safety earlier and its importance in the job workforce culture.
Mm-hmm.
So 2 questions about that. One, let's start with this and then we'll build to the other one. So how does psychological safety influence whether people speak up or stay silent?
So psychological safety, just to give it a definition, is a state of being where someone can be their most authentic selves and they feel okay doing that. They feel okay speaking up. They feel okay failing. They feel okay taking a risk. They don't feel like anyone is out to undermine them or shoot them down. They feel like they are more free to speak up. So this is incredibly important, and it has been originally studied in team environments and psychologically safe teams and how teams perform. But in my dissertation, I looked at one-on-one psychological safety, how when a woman who was experiencing domestic violence at home, when she struggled to perform at work, how a leader who was psychologically safe helped her succeed in the workplace. And they help them do that through non-judgment, through asking open-ended questions, by making space, not just saying the employee can come to their office, but actually going out and spending time with their employee. They provided resources to close gaps. They removed shame. They made the workplace a place that was safe to be, separate from the home environment. Therefore, an emergent finding in my dissertation was that compartmentalization we all want, kind of like that TV show Severance, they want you to go up the elevator and boom, you're in work, and then down the elevator and boom, you're in your regular life. Well, that actually sort of became possible with psychological safety because it was safe to address the parts of the home environment that were interfering with the work environment and separate them in a way that had no shame, was open, was non-judgmental. It was really, really a great finding because a lot of these women, they actually end up having incredibly unstable careers. They fail in the workplace after workplace after workplace. It never gets really worked out because she felt less and less safe to speak up. And there's all sorts of things that collide with that. But ultimately, anytime you don't enable psychological safety in an organization, you enable the lack of data and information in your organization. You disable the ability for people to work together. You disable the people who want to say what's on their mind. They want to spot what's going on, but they don't feel like they can because fear of punishment. So psychological safety is incredibly important.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, in that story of your dissertation that you just gave us, so is it possible for that woman once she experiences the psychological safety at work, is it possible for her to take that, do you think, into other parts of her life? Well, so take that back into her home life.
Well, she takes it forward into other work environments. So we did not drive during the study back into the home environment or look at that at all. We wanted to strictly keep the study based on the workplace. However, what we found is that in future jobs that she had, she was more likely to be psychologically safe with her employees. And she was more likely to be promoted and more likely to, if faced with a similar situation, show up fully for that individual. So within that context, she is able to speak up. Now, I can speak a little bit to the home environment from my own perspective and my own experience is when you're living in an environment where psychological aggression, domestic violence is present, it is not safe to speak up. Speaking up in that home environment equals some form of physical or psychological or emotional or sexual punishment. So it's not something that I believe would translate from my own personal experience back into a home environment because the environments are not the same. I could take someone who feels incredibly psychologically safe at work, put them in a completely different context where it's punitive, and they're going to clam them up. Why? Self-protection. It's much more about the environment than a single individual. However, in work environments that were a little bit more toxic, and there was one in my study where the environment itself was not incredibly psychologically safe, but the leader was still able to impart psychological safety to their direct report, thus helping her out. So this proves that it truly just takes one person. You don't have to convert your entire company for psychological safety to exist. It can start with one seed, one leader, one department, and then through demonstration flourish from there.
Now, let's take it from the employee standpoint for just a moment. So, an employee is not in an environment, in a company where he or she feels psychologically safe. Is there anything besides a lot of people, and it could be the right thing. It's really up to them. It's up to the situation. But a lot of people, given that, would go ahead and quit, either silent quitting or actually leave the job, which is, sometimes that's the very best thing to do. But now let's do you think that an employee who's in a unsafe atmosphere can do something to change that atmosphere and hopefully turn it around a little?
I think that if the person is a leader, they can lead by example. However, it's really how you treat others can form that pattern in an organization. Psychological safety is a sticky wicket, though, because much like the woman who lives in an abusive home environment and how their knowledge of psychological safety and how to create it with others isn't going to impact their home environment one bit because it's dangerous. You really have to look across the organization and ask yourself, have I been punished for speaking up? Or do I just think I will be punished for speaking up? And am I willing to run an experiment on speaking up to test that belief? Where am I getting that belief from? Is that belief based on my own experience, or is that belief based on something that I've seen? Is it kind of just in one department that I've seen it? Is it with my direct supervisor? Really seek to understand where that belief comes from, that as an employee, you can't speak up. And then once you understand that, go, okay, so let's come into awareness, consciousness, and humility with this. So awareness is what's happening. Consciousness is what is the depth of what's happening? What are the conditions around it? And humility is neither being too good to nor not good enough to. When you come at it from that, you can then decide from yourself, okay, am I going to plan an action, some small form of speaking up that I could test? What are the people involved with that speaking up, the processes, the policies? What's the environment of that? How can I construct an experiment that's just a little bit outside of my comfort zone, not all the way outside of my comfort zone, but a little bit? And then what does success look like in that? What does it look like to win? And what does it look like for this just to be too big of a risk and I'm just not going to do it and I'm going to quit? And when you do that, one of two things are going to happen. You're going to confirm that, nope, that wasn't safe. But then again, I knew that, and now I've confirmed it. Or you'll speak up and you'll be pleasantly surprised. But you only know, it's interesting. We all operate with mental models. And what mental models are beliefs that impact our behavior. And we witness something, we see something, we observe something, record it like a video camera in our brains, and we apply some sort of meaning, some sort of belief to that. And from that, we might take an action or not take an action. But the fact is that all of that just played out in our heads without it becoming real in the world. So experimentation is the thing that you do in small, measured amounts that makes things real in the world. It's the real conversations that you have. It's the real risks that you take. I believe that the first psychological safety to have is the psychological safety you have with yourself. Are you okay with making a mistake? Are you okay taking a risk? Do you have your own back through self-care? You can apply that validated metric for psychological safety to a group, to a community, but you could also apply it to a dyadic one-on-one relationship or just yourself. But when you can become psychologically safe with yourself, then you actually can be willing to unlearn what you think you know, because it's okay to not prove yourself right all the time. I have friends that they're so bent on proving themselves right, operating on data that's from the 1990s. No, this is the way it is. I'm like, no, it's not. But it's such a deep ingrained belief that those individuals, they don't move forward in the way that they could because they're so held back by their belief, by what they think's going to happen, creating higher levels of depression, of anxiety, of all of those things that happen when we become a weight on ourselves. So that first psychological safety, absolutely with yourself. Second, with another. Third, with your department. But be brave enough to experiment.
Mm-hmm. And experimenting is really another form of listening. Because you experiment, you listen to the feedback that you get. It's all about asking questions out in whatever form, and listening again in whatever form to the answers. I love this. So now you brought up some people, some managers or leaders are focused on what has always worked. I'll bring up, an organization like Toastmasters International, been around forever. So they're focused on what has always worked. Not necessarily on the evolving, on business evolving or their business, whatever that may be. So what point in the change process do you think leaders should really be listening most?
So I like to look at change processes through the various frameworks that exist for change. And I love John Kotter's work. John Kotter says that your work actually starts by developing a guiding coalition for the work internally. And listening starts from the absolute get-go. In McKinsey's 7S, it starts out in strategy, and strategy is informed by research, which research is just primary and secondary data or listening. So change starts with listening. There is listening throughout change, and you listen for the results. Listening is the golden thread. It is the through line in change management. When you stop listening to all of the variations of what could go on with change and what is going on during the change process, when you just get hung up on, we're using this framework, and step one of that car is awareness. That's also listening. So So they all have some form of listening as the jumping off point. But as you go through these frameworks, you have to keep listening. Even if you are in knowledge and you think in ADKAR and you think you're just training, you're not. You're training and you're making sure it sinks in. You're not just delivering courses for courses' sake, and you're not measuring retention of information and data. You're not getting all the way through to measuring the results of the change and not listening. Of course you're listening. You're not just looking at, did we make more money? You want to look at the whole impact of the change and what did you learn throughout that? So it's incredibly important. It's more important now, especially in the age of AI, to continue listening, to continue being human, because that is where human-centered change will happen. You will find that there are a lot of changes that are taking place, and many of those changes are removing the human element. And when you remove the human element of that change, it has to be very automated, very processed, very cut and dry, very robotic. And then maybe you could remove the human element. But even then, I just saw this morning a restaurant in California now that is fully automated, fully robotic, fully automated, and has facial recognition of customers, all of that, right? And they turnkey on that change. But I'm going to bet you that the owners of that restaurant are collecting human customer feedback on that. They're looking at not only their sales numbers and are people coming back, they're looking at the quality of the food, they're looking at customer feedback, they're looking at incidents that happen within the place, because you have to have a human present for any type of malfunction. So there are more and more businesses that are playing with this, okay, let's see how non-human we can get. But still, you're going to have that data from human listening in everything that you do. So you need to preset your brain not to avoid it.
You know what I really love, one thing that I really love about this conversation is we are talking, some of the things that you're talking about, yes, we have a conversation based on leadership and business leadership, but these same topics, like listening, for instance, and leadership, all of this could apply to parenting, to other situations as well. And that's what I really, really love about this is, and I'm partly saying this for the audience because I know not all of you are in business, but what we're discussing really, really does, it has an, it does apply to you. It is applicable to situation.
It is. I've had many people come up to me about my workbook, Creating Critical Opportunity, that they've gotten off of Amazon. And they said, well, I'm not in business, but I just had a major life change. And I did this critical opportunity process with that in mind. And now I feel so much more equipped to handle that life change. So change management frameworks aren't just for corporations. They are for all of us to handle change better, to come at it from a lighter place, a more certain place, a place where we're willing to open up, to walk the path that's being revealed versus say, I know this is the path, and then your knowing of the path leads you onto the rockiest road you've been on in your entire life. And I've been there too. It's some real chaos can be created out of absolute certainty.
Mm.
And I just challenge every listener to be willing to walk the path as it presents itself, to not shortchange yourself, that you are capable, you are able to address whatever has been handed to you. And that thing that was handed to you for you, for your learning or your blessing, but definitely in some way your benefit.
Now, where would you say play, whether it be through laughter or whether it be through some other sort of humor or just play, however you define it, where and how does play fall into change management?
I think you just have to love each other during the change management process, because you're a change team. You're pioneers. You are pioneering towards something different. You have to take every day as an ability to like each other, to walk together, to be a team that embraces each other and can have fun together and play together. Some of my best ideas with teams have been when I've been on trips with my teams. I'm traveled to my teams. I have traveled with my teams. One of my greatest fun team experience was we had something really big to accomplish during a wedding. And after the wedding, we were all barreling toward Venice and working on a presentation together. And there was big change happening, but at the same time, great celebration. And we just made it adventurous and fun. Change is an adventure. Change can be fun or it can be terrifying, just like a roller coaster. Roller coasters can be fun or they can be terrifying or they can be both. But once you're in a change scenario, strap in and have fun with it, because, well, it's kind of your only choice.
Yeah. What shift do you hope to see in how leaders approach listening and change in the future?
I really hope that EQ sees a large resurgence. And I think that it will, being that a lot of our IQ will be doubled down on by AI, and AI being the great normalizer. I think that EQ and being willing to open up, to iterate, to change without being so tied to the emotional result, I think that's going to be incredibly important. The ability to self-manage, to manage others with kindness, to listen. I just hope that emotional intelligence has its renaissance, because we certainly need it right now.
Now, I have all of your contact information and your information about your book and everything. It's all in our show notes. But I wanted to give you an opportunity to go ahead and voice how listeners could continue the conversation with you.
Please just connect with me on LinkedIn, Dr. Diane Dye, and it's me in my DMs, not somebody else, and just have a conversation with me. Do you follow me? Connect with me. I post regularly about various topics, but I also openly engage with others in the chat. That's also where you'll find about my free Braver Innovation trainings that I'm starting monthly, and you can get in on those.
Cool. Very nice. Very nice. All right. So, what do you think what does lightening up mean to you especially in leadership?
Just being willing to not take it so seriously, to roll with the punches, to be willing to unlearn what you think you know, to not pick up the stick and bludgeon yourself when you make a mistake, and just lighten up, because it can be fun. Business life can be fun.
Can be fun. Can be fun. All right. So last thing. Finish this sentence first, please. Great leaders don't just talk. They
do. They do. They personify what they are saying. They're not just windbags who are just blowing hot air. They are the fan, and they move forward. They create sweeping change. They are visionaries, but they also empower their people.
Diane, thank you so much for this conversation. It's very lively. I love my people so much that I love to bring them lively and stimulating conversations like this. And Diane, Dr. Diane Dye, you have not fallen short in that. You are, I'm glad to have you be part of the Lighten Up Nation now. And I thank all of you listeners for continuing to support us, for continuing to listen to our episodes now. It's because of you that now we have 2 episodes a week, not just 1. And thank you so much for joining this community, because it is through your help, it's through all of our help that we share with the world the power of laughter and play and joy and happiness and leadership and hope and resilience and all of these things. All the things, and we could not do it without you. So thank you so much for your support. Please, 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 by all means, go and review us. Give us a review on one of the platforms. Go to our Facebook page and start a conversation. Tell us what we could do to make this better, or what you like about what we're doing, who you want to see more of, because we are always listening. Until next time, remember, every smile can open a door, every heart or every laugh can open a heart, and every step can be your next victory. Thanks so much. Stressed out, stuck, or leading on autopilot? It's not a motivational problem, it's a connection problem. My weekly virtual improv classes boost engagement, collaboration, and retention, all while having fun. Register now for a complimentary month.